Good morning. A lot has happened here in Erie County and across the nation since we spoke to you last. Important conversations are taking place within our community. Important actions are taking place also. And as we know yesterday, important elections have taken place, of which we're still waiting on the results from a number of those. So thank you for everyone who voted yesterday, for making your voices heard, and for taking the steps towards hopefully new and positive policy changes throughout our community and across our nation. All this happened while the pandemic continues to infiltrate counties across our nation. So here in Erie County, to give you an update on COVID-19, we have 7 new cases in to report in Erie County this morning, which brings us to a cumulative total of 314 cases of positive COVID-19. Last Wednesday, we had reported we were at 226. So that is 88 cases additional in this past week. The state will provide updated numbers later today. Now that we were only holding our press briefings once a week here on Wednesday mornings, please check the media releases on our website for our daily numbers Monday through Friday. Of those 314 cases in Erie County, 55% are female and 45% are male. The breakdown by ages is such: 3% are 0 to 4 years old, 1% 5 to 9 years old, 4% ages 10 to 18, 13% are ages 19 to 24. 45%, our largest percentage, are ages 25 to 49. 24% are ages 50 to 64, and 9% are 65 or older. Please note that these percentages that I'm giving you today in the different categories could be off by a percentage point because of rounding. Regarding race and ethnicity of our total cases, 57% are white residents, 30% are African American or Black residents, 8% are Asian, 2% are multiracial, 1% other, and 2% unknown. Regarding Hispanic origin, of those 13% of the total are Hispanic, and 84% are non-Hispanic, with 3% unknown. Training of our newly hired contact tracers began this week at the Erie County Department of Health, and the Health Department continues to accept applications for these positions, which you can apply at careers.eriecountypa.gov. And the environmental team continues to make field visits and assist businesses throughout Erie County. It was brought to our attention that a few businesses are citing reopening guidelines issued by the Pennsylvania Recreation and Park Society. But this is not a regulatory authority, and so we need to stick with guidelines that come from our regulatory authorities. So to clarify, according to the governor's order, health and wellness facilities should not operate during the yellow phase. And if you have questions, please check the state guidelines, and we appreciate that. And thank you to all of our businesses and residents who are working just so diligently to follow the guidelines for safe operations. I continue to be so impressed by our businesses and how they really are working hard to keep everyone safe during this pandemic. So a few businesses have been listed as our star businesses from our environmental team, and they are Lavery Brewing, which is providing takeout services for both food and beverage for everyone's enjoyment at home. And they have had social distancing markings on the floor for customers and call ahead ordering, and they have been doing this since the beginning when they could first do takeout orders. Connie's Ice Cream is providing a walk-up window and no inside services, and they have signage, and they've asked their customers to remain socially distanced from each other in the parking lot. So again, another good ice cream place that's doing great work. And lastly, the Erie Family Center, which is a nonprofit, has adapted during this time to provide a diaper bank service through a drive-through capacity, which is great, including an upcoming event at Elk Valley Elementary School on June 8th. So thank you to those businesses and nonprofits who continue to be our partners in keeping their employees safe and everyone they serve safe. As you continue to contribute to positive effects in Erie County, these businesses, please remember that the pandemic is still very present here. So we ask everyone, there are three things actually, that each of you can continue to do for all of us. And that's to keep your 6-foot distance from anyone that you don't live with. And that's to wash your hands with soap and water frequently, using hand sanitizer when you don't have the ability to wash them, as well as sanitizing your surfaces, and then, of course, wearing your mask when you go out and are near anyone who does not live with you in your home. These are simple things, but as I said last week, they are how we can show our love and compassion for our community and for each other, and it is a simple thing to ask, so please continue to do those things. Having said that, the Erie Art Museum has launched a new online effort today to combine the art of fashion as well as universal masking. So as the museum looks forward to getting the green light to reopen, it's promoting mask wearing in compliance with the CDC and the Department of Health, that's the Pennsylvania Department of Health guidelines. And the Erie Art Museum's Masquerade is an online fashion show for Erie County residents to show off what they are wearing this season. So I really am thankful to the Art Museum for doing this. Have a selfie, a photo of your family, coworkers, and friends sporting the latest mask fashions. They can be submitted to the museum through their Facebook page, through a private messenger, or by sending an email to info@erieartmuseum.org. And I certainly have seen some great masks out there. The photos then will be shared on facebook.com for the Erie Art Museum and erieartmuseum.org. Masks have become a regular new fashion accessory, so why not show yours off? And now I would like to turn to the media for questions, and today we will start with Erie Times News.
Hi, Kathy. It's David.
Hello, David.
How confident are you that the governor will announce on Friday that Erie will be among the counties that enter the green phase? Are you more optimistic? I know last Friday you were pretty upset about us not joining the other counties in the green phase.
Well, I had a conference call with our state legislators from our area 2 days ago, and collectively we decided that we would send a letter to the governor signed by all of us, so our state senators and our state House representatives, myself, and then I reached out to both Mayor Mitchell from Corey and Mayor Schember from Erie, and they both signed on to that letter too. So we sent that letter yesterday. Hopefully that will have the positive sway with the governor that we believe we are ready. And then I think, of course, the article in the Erie Times News yesterday from our CEOs of our hospitals, whom I had talked to last week, saying that they feel confident with us going green. And that actually is a crucial point right there, that the hospitals felt comfortable with that. And so I hope with all of those things combined, as well as just, again, our need to get our economy back up and going, that the governor will move us to green.
Okay. Has there been any feedback from the state on anything, whether it's the letter or any other meetings?
We haven't had any direct feedback about, about this, and as we know, the state tends to make their decisions here at the end of the week and then announce them on Friday. But we'll see where this goes. But there has been a collective effort, I would say, between the elected officials in this region as well as our business community to help the state understand where we're at, what our numbers are, what our data says. And even though we're going up in numbers, and that's a significant increase in our numbers, what I see is that people are actually almost behaving better when it comes to the guidelines when they're at work and when they're in businesses, because the businesses are doing such a great job. So it's not the businesses that are the problem. It's when people are interacting socially, when they're away from work and when they're away from going into a business.
Thank you.
Jet TV.
Hi, Kathy. It's Samir. I just want to follow up with David's question. So are you confident, I guess not really yes or no, but do you think that the letter that you just sent to the state will have a significant impact, I guess, in the governor's decision?
Well, I do think it will have an impact. You know, when you have Republicans and Democrats, local and state officials, all collectively coming together with one voice. You know, we've talked about that a lot on a lot of issues regarding our region and how we get funding and a whole host of other things. You know, Erie County, for the first time in a long time over the last number of years, has been speaking with one voice. And when we speak with one voice, we seem to have a much greater impact. So that is encouraging. I think that we are all collectively agreeing and then sending that message to the governor. So I can't say for sure, but I think we sent the best and strongest message we could.
And then just to follow up, so let's backtrack. Of course, Erie County had one of the best, I guess, mitigation efforts in the Commonwealth. Our numbers stayed low for a significant amount of time. Do you feel that we kind of should have just taken that initial gut punch and had higher numbers then? Because, of course, when we look down to like Allegheny County, they don't really have significant increases now with new cases. So do you think we kind of did, quote unquote, too good of a job?
Well, you know, I don't think we did too good of a job in terms of keeping people from getting sick and from keeping people from going in the hospital and keeping people from dying. But what I think has happened is people have become complacent. There's too many people in our community, I guess, who don't know anyone who has COVID-19, and therefore they don't think it's really that big of a deal. And so they think that they're somehow immune or that they have a very low chance of contracting the virus. And so that's where I think the problem lies. You know, you never get credit, I guess, when you do something, when you prevent something from happening, right? We always say this in public safety. You know, you can do a lot of things to prevent the bad things from happening. And you don't know if they would have happened or not. So we don't know, but we do know that we have had a much lower numbers for a long time. And I think it has made people complacent.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Erie News Now.
Yeah, hi there, Kathy. John Leidick with you this morning. Just our people talking to me in the last couple of minutes. The state website, I believe, is reporting 6 deaths within the county. Going over the numbers that you gave us earlier, do you have any information or updates on those numbers that you can share with us?
So I did hear this morning that we had, shortly before I came here, that we had 2 additional deaths in Erie County. I don't have any information about those additional deaths, but I had heard, sadly, that we now have, that would put us to 6. Of course, we know there's 1 death we've never been able to figure out. We didn't have any information on that person and that death, and we won't know, I don't think, for a long time. But it is obviously always tragic when we lose our residents, and especially to something like this.
And then you talked about earlier the tracers, the new tracers. How has that process gone for you? And what are you looking at a certain number of people you're still looking to hire to try and do contact tracing for everyone that is currently an active case?
So we think this is going to be an ongoing effort to, you know, bring people on and train them up. And so we have 6 this week who are in the middle of training right now, observing the other contact tracers. And there's obviously plenty of cases for them to observe. And then hopefully it won't be too long before they're on their own. Next week, hopefully we'll be able to bring on some more. Depends on how this training goes. You know, all this takes time, and you have to remember the people that are training them are also the people that are doing the work right now. So as we get through this first training, we'll bring the next set in, and then we'll be looking to bring maybe some more even beyond that, because we are looking at about a year to 18 months of keeping up what we call our incident command on COVID-19. And we know that, I've talked a lot about this, that the people who work at the Erie County Department of Health on a regular basis have been working very, very long hours every single day for months now, and those people need time off. So we've got to get people trained up and ready to do that. So we're looking, we don't really know exactly how many. And people say, well, how many people can they do in a certain amount of time? It just depends, because one person might have only 3 or 4 contacts and another person might have 35. So it's hard to say, but we're going to hire up as we need, and keeping a full list of people that may be interested will help us as we go further along, and if we find we need even more. Talk
Thank
Erie.
you.
Sure, Talk Erie.
Yes, good morning, Kathy. It's Joel Natale. I wanted to ask you about the cases, the 314. You know, over weeks and weeks and weeks, there had always been maybe a slight discrepancy between what the state had been reporting and what the county had been reporting. But in the last week or so, those numbers have lined up. Is the county now just reporting what the state is reporting, or are they confirming all those cases? And are they all PCR cases, or is there antibody tests mixed in there?
As far as I know, the cases that we have reported today are all PCR. On the other days when I'm not doing these press, we are starting to report the state numbers, honestly, simply because my staff is trying to do their work. And one of the reasons, so then we catch up on Wednesday, I guess, is the best way to put it. And that's why we're giving you all the figures on the genders and the race and ages and all of that. So it's lightening up their load a little bit so that they can continue to do all the contact tracing and epidemiology work that they need to do. We've always kind of been either right with the state or a little bit below or a little bit above. And some of that has to do with, you know, are we caught up on our cases or not? And you have to remember, the state is more like a data dump. We have been waiting to confirm these cases with that personal contact with the individual. In terms of the antibody tests, I don't believe that any that we're reporting today have the antibody tests in there, but I can't be 100% sure about that, Joel, and we can certainly get back to you on that.
That'd be great.
Mm-hmm.
Just a quick follow-up. Do you think that this 88 new cases in a week has anything to do with the underground parties that have been reported on in social media, those Friday night parties?
I don't know specifically if they're to the ones that were, you know, on Facebook and one of them made the media, but I can tell you they are because of gatherings. And whether that would be a gathering in your next door neighbor's home or your own home or somebody who lives on the other side of the county, they are often related to people gathering in large groups, you know, not staying their 6-foot distance and not wearing their mask. That is the way this is transferred for the most part, is person to person. And so even though we talk a lot about cleaning surfaces, and obviously that's still very, very important, we know that the best way to pass COVID-19 is to pass it from person to person.
Thanks.
I think we have maybe Penn Capital Star with us today. Hannah, are you there? I guess not. Any other media, just to make sure? All right, we'll go back to the Erie Times News.
Yes, Kathy. So on Friday, restaurants and other places, food establishments will be able to have outdoor seating. Wanted to get your thoughts on that. Obviously, people won't be able to have their masks on while they eat. How much of a concern is it for you? And is it something that you personally are going to participate in once the places are allowed to have outdoor seating on Friday?
Would want our restaurants, and I know we've been giving them guidance, and they have guidance that people need to come in wearing their mask. The tables need to be 6-foot distance from each other, and people shouldn't take their masks off till they're seated at their table and going to eat and drink. So that way, at least, we keep the social, physical distance between people when their masks are off. And then, of course, the restaurants are going to be responsible for good sanitizing between customers, and no condiments. I don't believe are supposed to be left on the table. You know, you'd often go in and there'd be the bottle of ketchup or whatever it is that the restaurant has, and so those type of things are not supposed to be left on the tables. And so there are guidelines. Also needs to be open air. It can't just be something with windows open. So there is some talk about that, and I know our health department is trying to be helpful, you know, to restaurants to understand they need to truly be open air. Personally, myself, I will not be. I'm very cautious about what I do. I'm going to protect myself and my family as best I can. And so I have limited myself in terms of where I shop, when I shop, what time I shop. and certainly what I do while I'm out shopping. I have gotten takeout from some restaurants, and I feel very comfortable doing that and bringing it to my own home and eating it. But I'm very cautious about those other things. So it will be a while, I think, before I sit down in a restaurant personally.
Okay. And as you said, members of the health department have been going out and working with some of these establishments to get them ready. Do you have any kind of idea how many establishments across the county are going to offer outdoor seating starting on Friday?
I'm not sure how many are. I think some are still trying to get ready to be able to do that. So, you know, that's the one thing. If we would suddenly be told we go green, all the businesses need time to be ready for that. And of course, these businesses were just told last week, and I think some businesses are still trying to figure out how they do that, and does it make sense for them? Because when you take your seating down by 50% or more, does it make financial sense for you to open up or not? And each business has to make their own decision. So I don't know what the number is on that. You know, we can try to find out if we can get a number for you, David. I know you've had a long history working with the health department on their issues around restaurants, so we'll see if we can try to find you a number, but I don't know that.
All right. Thank you.
Sure. Jet TV?
Yep. Hi, Kathy. Samir still. So let's say we get to Friday and the governor doesn't say say Erie's going to be a part of this next phase to go green. How long do you think economically Erie could survive, I guess, with our restaurants shut down? What do you think that impact will look like?
Well, obviously it'll be another devastating blow to our community. It's not just the restaurants. There's a number of businesses that aren't open. You know, we've talked about this, Samir, you and I, about our hair. You know, so we have our barbers and our hair salons not open, our nail salons, our gyms, our spas. You know, it's just there's a lot of businesses not open. But they're the businesses where it's much, much harder to stay 6 foot apart. And, you know, the danger is probably most great for the person working there, because they're going to have customer after customer coming in. And, you know, when you go in as a patron, you're only dealing usually with one person. So your exposure is only to that one person, where the person working there has many more. So those are the difficulties for these services that we all want. But we also know that people now are going to places such as Ohio and down to Crawford County and into Warren, potentially to get those same kind of services. And so I think we're trying to do the best we can to give those businesses guidelines on how they can do it very safely, well, as safely as you can, with COVID-19 being the tricky virus that it is. But I think it would be another devastating blow to our community if we could not move to green, especially when we sit kind of surrounded by communities that have moved on to that phase.
And then, so of course, earlier this press conference, you said there's a couple things community members could do. Obviously, social distance, wash their hands, sanitize, face masks. Is there anything outside of that, any other thing an individual could do to help us, I guess, get to the green zone or help secure a spot there?
Well, I do say, you know, if everybody cares about this economy and they really want our community to do well, then we need everyone to comply with the guidance. And I see some great time, sometimes when it's great. A lot of people wearing masks feel very comfortable, but sometimes I go out and I don't feel comfortable at all. And so what I do is I just turn around and leave. So again, I wish I had something new and more interesting and exciting to say, but this is the message, and this is going to be the message until we have that vaccine, which could be a year or more. So this is, unfortunately, the only message that I can continue to say. And I don't know what else we can say to people to help them understand the importance of this.
Thanks.
Erie News Now?
Yeah, hi there, Kathy. Obviously, this past weekend with the protests in downtown Erie, people expressing their right to protest. But what were your thoughts on what you saw from people with masks, and maybe concerns on a spike as well as that following just recently the Memorial Day holiday and the numbers that could cause a concern for the state to go to green?
Well, first of all, I want to say that we all have the right to express our opinions. It's one of our rights as citizens of this country, and it's a really precious and sacred right that we have. And so I think that we have to recognize that first and foremost. We know that whenever people gather, that when they gather with people outside of their own home, there is a risk of COVID-19 spreading. I did see via the media, many people wearing masks, and I want to thank them for doing that. They were out there expressing something they felt very strongly about, and rightfully so, and they were trying to do it as safely as they could by wearing a mask. Social distancing, I didn't see enough of the footage I saw some footage that didn't look like a lot of good physical social distancing, but that gets hard when you have hundreds of people brought together, and that is the problem with some of these gatherings, is that it's just difficult to do that. So with that being said, we could potentially see a spike from that, but it's hard to say, and it's sometimes hard to pinpoint. If you are a person who suddenly becomes positive, you've got to talk about what you've done for the last number of days since before you had your symptoms, and if you were at the protest, but maybe you were also at other things where you could have picked it up. So it's hard to pinpoint that you picked it up at that rally. And what I would just suggest for anyone who is there is, if you can quarantine yourself a little bit more and stay away from other people for 14 days, that would be great. Especially stay away from anyone who's particularly vulnerable to the COVID-19 symptoms, and watch yourself for symptoms, anything that you might have in terms of a fever and, just the myriad of symptoms that are on the CDC's website, our website, the Pennsylvania Department of Health's website, and those symptoms have changed a bit over time. So monitor yourself for those symptoms, and if you have any symptoms at all, please go get tested.
And then just one follow-up. I know you mentioned about the fact that the impact it would have if we don't go green. What is your continued advice in terms of businesses? We've had a bunch reach out to us, I'm sure you as well, in terms of just the balance of trying to keep their business open as long as they can, but not having the ability to do certain things as we continue to stay in the yellow phase.
There are going to be businesses that are not going to make it through this, and it's horrible to think about that. And that very much concerns me, concerns so many others in our community. And so we're trying to do, what we can to bolster them. We've obviously put some funding out there from the county's redevelopment authority, and the chamber has a whole list of resources on their page. And I know they've had a number of webinars and things that they're trying to help businesses find the funding that the federal government and the state government, as well as local, have put out there. We also know that we, as a county, will now be getting more than $24 million in July. That will be coming from the CARES Act that came to the state, and now will go to the counties directly who didn't get the money because we were not 500,000 population or greater. And a good portion of that money can go for economic development. And in fact, I have a meeting tomorrow sitting down with the DCED to discuss, that's the Department of Community and Economic Development, to discuss that funding and how it can be used so that when it does come in July, we're ready, and we're ready to get out there as quickly as possible with those funds and help our economy. So those are the kind of things that we're trying to do, but I do know that there will be some businesses that are already not surviving, and particularly if we don't go to green soon, there will be others that will fall into that same category.
Thank you.
Sure. Talk Erie.
Yes, hi, Kathy. Are you afraid that the mitigation efforts and all the good work that the county and the citizens have done to try to stop the spread of COVID is going to be lost now because of the unrest, with the riots and things and the protests dominating the news cycle now? Is that going to have a negative impact on just people doing what they need to do to stop COVID?
My bigger concern about the mitigation of this and the undoing of all the good work is honestly people's behavior when they're just social, when they're out there on a daily basis. The protests, in the evenings or afternoons or whenever they occur are one thing, but I think the issue is more just about what people are doing every day, that they're gathering with others because they do not think that they are susceptible to COVID-19. They actually don't think this is that big of a deal. I mean, up until today, we had 4 deaths, 3 of which we knew about and could track. Now we have 2 more deaths. But I've said all along, our numbers have tracked much younger than most places. And even today, when I talked about those statistics, with I think it was 45% being in the age group of 25 to 49 and 9% being 65 and older, we have almost as many children who have COVID-19 as we do people 65 and older. And we know that the older you are, the more susceptible you are to the ravages of COVID-19. So as more people are positive in our community, those people could be in places where they would spread it to our more vulnerable populations. And that's where the fear lies. Are you going to take it to your grandparent? Are you going to take it to your older parent? Are you going to take it to an older person that you might see in your work setting? Those are the scary things for me. That's where I think the problem lies. So we have done an excellent job in Erie County. We're going to continue to work very hard every single day, and I say that as the County Health Department, and I think when I say we, I mean it collectively, the hospitals, our County Health Department, our community partners, our elected leaders, and so that is going to continue no matter what, but I do need people to understand the seriousness of their actions.
Just as a quick follow-up, can you respond to the fact that, in Ohio, things are much more loose to the point that there's organized sports and teams from Pennsylvania, from Erie County, are going to Conneaut to play baseball, to go to dinner, to get their haircut. I mean, basically, Conneaut and Ashtabula are reaping the benefits of our lockdown.
Well, as I mentioned, if we don't get some of our businesses open, people will continue to migrate to those other communities. And that's one thing we don't want, right? We want people to stay as close to home as they can so that we don't continue to have more spread. I think it's really important to remember, let's go back to the beginning. Before COVID-19 was in Erie County, it came from people traveling. It came from our residents who had gone off to other countries across the globe. It came from people then who traveled to other places in our nation. And that is how it came into Erie County. So the more we travel and get around other people and other communities where the incident rate is even higher than Erie County, the more your chance is of contracting COVID-19. So if we can get ourselves to green, get it open, keep people closer to home, everybody does the right thing in terms of wearing a face mask and social distancing from each other. If we would do all of those things, I know our businesses will step up to the challenge, and as they are currently, and they'll help to keep us safe.
Thanks.
Erie Times News, do you have any last question?
Yes, Kathy, I want to go back to the two deaths. I just want to make sure we're clear on this. You received word, of this through the state. It's not that the county got direct information about these deaths. You got it through the state
No,
Department?
I got the direct information from my staff at the health department, at our staff there. The staff gave me that information this morning. That did not come from the state. I don't know if we'll see that on the state numbers this morning or not, because usually a death certificate has to be issued, and then the lag, like the other deaths, when I reported them early on, our first couple deaths, we knew that information, and I think it was, 2 or 3 days before we saw the numbers show up on the state's data, because my understanding is a death certificate gets issued, and then there's a process that it goes through before the state would get that information.
And there is no other information on those two deaths that you can pass along?
I don't have the details on either one of those individuals, no.
Okay. And then one other thing I just wanted to follow up with. You have reduced your number of public news conferences. It was daily. It's once a week, at least this week. We have gotten calls and emails that they're concerned because people who are watching you on TV, people who are reading about this in the paper, are concerned because cases are going up, and they have been, as you well know, they've been following you on these live news conferences. Is there any more thought about maybe not having one, but having maybe more than one a week? I just want to get your thoughts on that and the decision to scale it down to one a week.
I'm open to whatever the public and the media think they want, need. we were getting conflicting messages, honestly. We were getting some, and it's with everything you do, right? Some people love it and some people say that's enough. And we were getting some people saying, enough, you've done enough, and your message is the same every day. And then we were getting some people to say, I watch you every day, I really depend on it. So we are open. As always, this whole thing through COVID-19 has been fluid. The one biggest issue I have to say is honestly the toll on my staff, because they are trying to do their work every day, and the staff has a lot on their plate. So my demands, I would say, because I need numbers, I need this, I need that, and that sometimes can be burdensome. So we were trying to balance, still get the message out as well as we could, but balance that with understanding that the caseload was really rising, and the numbers, which I know that you all want, and I've tried to get them to you as quickly as I can and as clearly and accurately as I can, but it's not as easy as I or you would think it is to get some of these numbers. It's, again, this NED system is a closed system. Only certain people have access to it. And so those people are the ones who have to go in and grab this data out of there. And those are the same people that are doing all this really important work. So I can't just put another employee on that, right? I can't just say I need my data person to go in and grab all this. So this just really, that was part of the reasoning for that. And just, but again, if the public would like more and the media would like more, we could potentially look at doing twice a week or something different. We're honestly just trying to feel our way through this and understand what is needed and what would work out best for the community as a whole. But certainly, I am here to bring as much information as clear and as accurate as I can to you from all the data that we have.
Thank you, Kathy.
Sure. Jet TV?
Yep. Hi, Kathy, Samir. So my last question, of course, the courthouse opened up on Monday. So I guess let's just talk about that process, how it went overall, and then do you guys have full staff back at the courthouse currently?
So the opening of the courthouse went really well. It's only day 3, but so far it's gone well. We are not full staff in because there's still a number of people who are working from home if they can, and we're still encouraging that, as I think many businesses are, just to try to, allow people to be socially distant by having a fewer people maybe in an office if they're able to work remotely. So we're going to continue to promote that where we can, but a lot of county government, of course, involves direct interaction with our citizens. So some of that can't be done, and some of it, of course, is on systems that are only available when you're in the physical space. Zoom meetings are going really well, as they are for everyone else, so I think a lot of that will continue. We had probably more visitors yesterday than we normally would have with the courthouse just reopening because it was election day. So many people in and out for that purpose. And but it seemed like people were happy to be able to come back in, and the employees as well as those who came in to use the services of the courthouse. So all is going well there. Thank you.
Perfect. Thanks.
Mm-hmm. I did want to add one more thing. And remember, the courts have decided that they will not have any jury courts in the month of June. We'll continue to bring information forward, and Judge Trisilla will bring information forward as the courts change. So that always keeps our numbers down in the courthouse when they don't have a jury trial. Erie News Now?
No further questions, Kathy. Thank you.
Sure. Talk Erie?
Yes, Kathy, do you have an update on the outreach to the hotter zip codes, 16-50304 and 10?
So last week, as I think everyone knows, or most people know, there was an effort to do some testing in the neighborhoods where the counts were higher. And so we partnered. This was really an effort led by the neighborhood centers and our partners there, as well as some of our other health partners. And there was testing done through the Quality of Life Center, JFK Center, and then there was testing done through the Booker T. Washington Center. and 208 people showed up on a rainy Friday. So that was really great. The staff said that everything went smoothly, and there will be another one, I think later this week, tomorrow, at the Martin Luther King Center. So those are great efforts, and I appreciate the neighborhood centers and all the people who partnered with them to make these happen. So that's what we wanted to do, get in there and see if there is a big issue or not. And what we found is there was not as big of an issue as we thought. And if you start to look at the cumulative cases now and you start to look at the zip codes, what we see happening is COVID-19, even though we had maybe a couple weeks where it was more concentrated in a few neighborhoods, and not so much anymore. It's now moving, it's moving further out into the rest of the communities. So it's important to everyone to understand COVID-19 is everywhere.
Thank you.
And sure, thank you for that question. All right, well with that, let me just check one more time. Is there any other media with us today? Okay, thank you. And just a weekly reminder that the 2020 census is still ongoing and we need everyone to be counted. So the response numbers for this week are 69% of households in the total of the county have replied, and now 60% within the city of Erie, which of course is part of the county. So we like to see those numbers going up, and they are, and so we ask people to continue to understand how important it is that you be counted. So complete the 2020 census at my2020census.gov or by mail, or you can call 844-330-2020. And so finally, I just want to leave you with my message, and it's the same as it's been for a long time. Please stay as close to your home as you can. Please stay safe while you're out there by staying physically distant and wear your mask. And always, please try to remain calm through this pandemic. Thank you.